Hey everyone, my name is Francisco Escobar and welcome to Conversamos. As we continue our second season focusing on La Familia and Latinidad, this episode is going to be on raising and growing up Latinas. And coming off right of the 2020 presidential election, it is clear Latinas especially are a driving force in the political arena. Stay tuned as Latin Entertainment presents Conversamos.
Is it that wrong? I'm making a song, I'm taking it back for the platform that I form. You should help me transform. I run the reservoir, the predator, like a hungry carnivore when I'm breaking through these heavy.
Before we announce our panel, we like to promote this episode's business spotlight. Gloria Licious, a Chicana, Latina, indigenous handcraft company that sells wearable textile art, custom blended organic scrubs, essential oils, and more. Follow them at Gloria Licious, that is Gloria Licious, and check their website at www.glorialicious.com. Now let me introduce you to our panel. We have Miss Tina, Kim Travezano, Madeline Ramirez, and Roberto Perez. Thank you all for joining us. And now with our first question, how would you describe growing up Latina? And how has it impacted your parenting?
So I grew up in Westchester County, and I say Westchester County because I lived and was born in New Rochelle, and but since everything is so close, I feel like I moved from New Rochelle, then I went to Mamaroneck / Larchmont. But in New Rochelle, my parents, both of them, are very known in the Peruvian community because they're pillars. They came over 30 years ago, so that was always very important to us. My mom was one of the first 5 that started La Asociación de Señor de los Milagros in New Rochelle, so that always played a very big role in my life because every October I would see her in her purple dress, that, the hábito that she would wear. So my mom was raised old school, so that rubbed off on me a lot. So I was raised old school, even though I kind of we lived in like different eras. She put a lot of that, how can I say, that old school mentality on me. So it was always respect your elders no matter what. And, teachers, you had to do what they said and whatnot. And growing up, I went to a Catholic school, and then I went to a public school in Larchmont, Mamaroneck, where I was one out of 3 Hispanics, and then I was one out of 5 minorities. So it was a really big culture shock, and I'll talk about later on more about how that really impacted my life, because it was like a real eye-opener. I went and I endured so much racism and bullying that it really stuck with me, and the fact that it stuck with me for so long, and that now I'm able to talk about it. I was able to analyze and see how those incidents, and since it happened at a such young age, so it was a really big culture shock. And like I said, since I was one out of 3, since I was one out of 3, and then I went to the middle school where I saw more Hispanics in the high school, even though the school system was against me, and I had all these odds against me, even the teachers, I still survived it. I was able to graduate from high school. I was able to go to good college, graduate from college, educate myself, and now I'm back because this is stuff that's still going on in the district.
I have this blend of this señor who grew up in a very racist community, who was he didn't want anybody making fun of his children's accents. He didn't want anybody to push that racism that he had endured as a kid on his children. So my dad pushed education on us. He would correct our English. I mean, my dad, this guy, he's a Chicano or whatever, married a Paisa, right? my having that influence. So, okay, my name is Madeline, right? You don't know a lot of, unless I'm Central American who name their kids, Jonathan and Christopher and, all this stuff. That's not very common or whatever. My mom's name is Maria Guadalupe. My dad's Alfredo. They name me Madeline. And then my sisters kind of have anglicized names as well. I think my rebellion in growing up was they referred to me as La Prieta, and for my family. And so I had that growing up. I almost felt like there was not a lot of like gabachos around me. Actually, the school I went to is 98% Latino, mostly Mexican background, Central American, and Native Americans because it's also on a reservation.
I think I briefly talked to somebody about my childhood not being normal. So, I mean, I'm hearing some of you guys, I'm somewhat embarrassed to share, but I didn't really grow up with an influence per se. My father was on heroin from the youngest age that I could remember, and so it was pretty much like school and things like that where I kind of got any type of even don't talk back or anything like that. My parents weren't really there for that. But I am a mother, so I think that itself influenced my parenting. I have 5 children, and I have 5 grandchildren. I was a young mother. I was pregnant at 14 and had my first child 2 weeks after my 15th birthday. And initially, I think with parenting, because I didn't have my parents there, I really didn't know how to parent, and so it was kind of like a toy. You know what I mean? Kind of like, oh, this is mine. I kind of got to take care of it. I mean, I'm only 15 years old at that time, so I think it was until and I fell into drugs and things like that too. It wasn't until I was like in my mid-20s that I sobered up myself. By that time, I had 4 children, and then I kind of went to school, and that's the schooling system is really where I grabbed any kind of culture from anything, because I was not in touch with my culture at all. I mean, I was like pretty lost. And when I went to community college to get my high school diploma, initially at 24, and I started taking like Chicano Latino studies classes and things like that, I think that's where even self-awareness came about, like, oh shit, like I had no idea about nothing, about anything about my raza, nothing. I didn't even know to be culturally aware and proud.
So that's a really great point you're kind of making. So for Robert and then Dina, I want you to answer this specifically. How is your experience growing up as a Latino and Latina influence you in raising your child or children?
I'll give a quick backstory of this quickly. When she was little, she was diagnosed with a kind of a small speech impediment, which we switched up trying to speak Spanish in our household to fully English. So after, and then also in the school system, because she was behind academically for a little bit, we want to just make sure that we consistently stayed with English, so that there wasn't any sort of confusion moving forward. So even though we don't necessarily have our language fully, I do have her listen to music, much like how my mom raised me, having to clean things up, having to, certain small little tasks that technically would be considered very momish or Latina momish. I'm doing with my daughter as well. She knows what she's felt the wrath of the chancla, for example. When there's the summer fairs here, we really try and focus on all of the Latino facing ones. or at least that are in the Pilsen area, which is predominantly Latino Hispanic community. So trying to go there a lot to at least have her see and experience things that I did, but not necessarily at full. Just because we live in Evanston, and although it's a diverse area, that sort of culture of like kind of going to a pulga, going to, fiesta, in San Antonio, we have Fiesta, which is just a general like street fair. We try to have those sort of aspects.
Yes, thank you. And Dina?
Like I said, really didn't get any kind of cultural awareness until I started going to college. At 24, my eldest one was about 9 at that time. So I did start trying to implement like, hey, speak Spanish and different like cultural awareness of like different dates that are important to us and things like that. But now I'm getting in trying to get them much more involved, even in marches and with everything that's going on now. But it's different for me because, like I said, I didn't have that upbringing. So it's a learning process for me, trying to get them culturally aware and proud.
Thank you. Excellent. And now to our next question. What messages have you learned from your mother and or father?
I think both my parents taught me that it was really important to get an education, that was the only way out of, I guess I want to say, ignorance. And something they always enforced, something they always repeated was, we're all ignorant because we all don't know what's happening. We all don't know it all. So I think that was really big for me because it made me not just want to keep on like going on with my studies, but it forced me to have this drive in me that I'm still using to this day, even with the movement that I'm, doing in my district, because all students matter, students of color matter. And I think what they taught me was, to stand up for myself. So when I was young, it really didn't happen, but as I went on and I got stronger and I was able to voice myself and kind of like grow into my skin, I was able to really like speak and like stand out and speak out about things. And once I found that, like no one was able to shut me up afterwards. So I think it's just like perseverance, and in this country nothing is easy. There's always going to be obstacles for you because maybe of your skin color.
For me, growing up, like I said, my dad, the way that he was, he had a he wanted to push American values on us a lot. Was a machista. What that taught me is that I'm not comfortable with that and to rebel. So I'm like this big, feminist, Chicana, radical. Me and him are always at it. So what he taught me was that I don't want that kind of stuff in my life. My mom taught me how to be a great mom. I love my children. I'm devoted to my children. You didn't ask me the question about the children, but what I do for my girls is I gave my children indigenous names. Tonantzin, Xochiquetzal, Quetzali, all stuff so that when people ask them who they are, they can tell them. I push that a lot. And so one thing is, like I said, I just grew up brown and I wanted to fall in love with who I was. They planted a little seed in that. Also, the curanderismo on my mom's side. I'm a bruja. I love that. That's all about natural herbs. Identity, all that stuff was either because I conflicted with them growing up, or it was things that I enjoyed. It's kind of weird because I'm like, I pray, but I'm a bruja. It's all about the moon. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I have all these different influences that make me this unique person that and I had to take a time to really learn that self-love. And I know I get that from great energies, from before, antepasados. So So I think what they taught me was what I'm comfortable with. Also, my dad is a hustler, so being self-reliant, being able to sell anything, that comes with my dad wanting to, and also artist. So my dad's an artist and I'm an artist. My mom's a poet, I'm a poet. So those culturally artistic things are something that I've reflected, I've called into my life. So spirituality, stuff like that. That's how they've influenced me and have made me want to do better for my children.
Thank you so much for sharing. And so our next question for the parents, yes, what messages are you teaching or have taught your children that you would like to highlight?
In fact, we actually had a conversation just not too long ago in regards to, her being mixed, and that she's going to have her own little journey of finding out who she is. She's, 10 years old now. Right now, she's just more interested in about, playing with her, trying to get in touch with her friends, being on TikTok, all that. But, we, in the past, we've done, as I mentioned, going out to festivals, going out to powwows. One of the things we do is we tell stories. Like I tell her a lot of the stories of me growing up down in Mexico, how both my grandparents' homes were the first ones there. So I try and teach her or give her messages of how important it is to know where you're from. Her name is Ashira, which is a Hebrew suffix of it. So knowing what her name is, but not only that, but also knowing what her last name, Perez, comes from. It's from Peter, of the Bible, of Peter, and it's there's a larger history that I'm not going to get into, but that I'm trying to teach her at this young age. I'm trying to teach her in regards to the history of Mexico, that Mexico in its original state is not called Mexico, it's Mecheca, and it's all these other terms and terminology. Even the word chancla comes from indigenous languages. So it's trying to give her those messages of understanding of who one part of her is. Her mother is doing the same thing on her end. And that even though one of us may not necessarily have the answers, we can at least listen and have those conversations with her to understand who she's going to be, while influence her and making sure that she is, again, growing up with good values, growing up to just understand who we were as individuals, as parents, so that she can get a better sense of who she is for the future.
Thank you. Dina, then Madeline?
Yeah, I think my children are grown. My eldest is 27 and my youngest is 13. So I think at this point, what I've been doing is, I think it's important. It was something that was difficult for me with self-identity because I wasn't culturally aware. So I'm always like just taking them to stuff like, because I feel like, they need to be really aware like of their roots, and because that was something, so we're kind of learning together, still in the process. And, I'm basically just like saying, do unto others, you want to do unto yourself, and, just, be a good person in life. And, of course, always just reaching out into cultural awareness.
As far as personal values that I would like to highlight of what I've taught my children is that they can do anything and be anything that they want. Absolutely no limitations as long as they're not hurting themselves or others. We always say that. You can do anything you want as long as you're not hurting yourself or others. I would like to also push that, self healing is important. I've taught my children to meditate, to create vision boards. So even the youngest one, to believe in hard work, and not only that, but to focus your energy on what you want and that you can bring it about. So also any little spells that, remedios that I have, something that I also like to pass on. Education is important. Also their history. So I'm this radical Chicana. I love my history, and I love to go at it with with racists, that are going to challenge me. And so I like to, just kind of really push that. My kids will be like, hey, what was that guy saying, whatever. And it, use that as a teachable moment. I'm an educator, so it's important for me for them to know true history of the Americas, and not just told from this colonial perspective. So whatever they come to me about, things that they see on the TV, we have a discussion about that. I do ask them a lot of questions and just kind of see where their mind is at, and then just kind of redirect them into that they're beautiful, and that not necessarily what you see in the media is reflective of who they are, and not for them to take that on. My eldest is 19 and my youngest is 5 months. I push that on all of them.
Now, for the daughters here, how have your parents prepared you for adulthood? And for the parents, how are you preparing your child or children for adulthood?
I feel like my parents did the best that they could, being first generation, because there's only so much they can teach me. Culturally speaking, they taught me that Peru is a beautiful country that has multiple races. We have our Afro-Peruvians, we have our Asian Peruvians, and we have our regular Peruvians, and we have our indigenous Peruvians. So I think what they pushed on me was never judge a book by its cover. Always respect one another, and culturally just, we come from Peruvians, we come from the Inca culture, the Incan people. So it was really important to them to show me Machu Picchu and that hard work that they did. And it's, I think that was very prideful for them. And I think they always pushed on being very proud to be Peruvian, because I think that since I am first generation, they were always afraid of their language, their culture getting lost with me. And I think that's why they also, prepared me in Spanish was my first language. So I am bilingual, and I love it because I can get away with both. And I do know a little bit of French. And also because my mom was able to travel Europe, and she was in Switzerland for a little bit, so they spoke French there. So I think they did a great job, preparing me for adulthood culturally, and as best as I could, adulthood as being first generation, because when, college hit and all that stuff, it was like a real eye opener, and it was a real kind of like hit myself with a wall, because I couldn't go for help because they didn't speak the language well. They didn't know what all the numbers meant. They were just confused on what they were doing. And then at the end, they felt bad and they felt embarrassed. So it was like, why would I put them through this process, which I could do by myself, and then, have them help me and then have them feel bad? Because even like when I was younger, they learned things differently than I did. Like if I would multiply one way, they would multiply another way because they were taught another way. So it was really hard, and I really had to learn a lot on my own. But it really taught me to be independent and be, very, I guess, very self-sufficient with everything.
For me, I think it's because I don't have any family here. I'm trying to just kind of generally prepare her to be self-aware of who she is. Both culturally, racially, whatever little girl or woman she turns out to be. I'm just kind of preparing her for that. But at the same time, kind of making sure that she understands that she can do anything. So sometimes she does break down because of, math is really hard at this age, and trying to say like, no, it's not that it's hard. It's just you're not understanding how to actually get to it. Let's figure it out. And once you figure it out, then you can understand to see like why, you'll see that these tears didn't mean anything. Let's move forward. So trying to kind of instill that confidence in her to do things, because beyond that, she's very outspoken young girl. Like I have her in boxing, I have her in Muay Thai. I'm trying to teach her. Basically, what I told her is, I want you to be prepared to face the entire world if one day I am not here. So in a nutshell, that is what I'm trying to really prepare her for, day in, day out. Pick up this, pick up that. It'll help you later on. She doesn't understand it now, but it'll help later on. So I tell her every little thing that I do, I'm trying to teach you. And so for that day does come.
For me, because of how I was brought up, I was pretty much, I kind of felt like I had to raise them tough, so I felt like it's a tough world out there. So I didn't give them more than what they needed, per se. And if they wanted something really bad, they had to work for it. And I just kind of felt like that's just the way the world is. It's like nothing's given to you. So I did that for them. I think it was just pretty much that, based on and love, and just an enormous amount of love. It was something that wasn't in my household. So my parents, what they taught me is not to do what they did. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do what they did. So I smother my children with love. It's still my 27-year-old. He's a boy, and he'll come and I'll force him to sit on my lap sometimes. And so yeah, like love and to be tough.
Thank you. And Madeline?
So I think how my parents prepared me, I can say a lot of bad examples. I'm like, hey, you guys did this and you guys did that, we're reminiscing. But actually, tomorrow is their 45th wedding anniversary. My dad has been married 3 times. My mom is a chingona that he lucked out with. And I say that because she's loyal. So I think that they taught me that relationships are not easy, and it's important to keep family together. That's something that they stress on us. And I've been with my husband. We're 8 years. We have beautiful children, all this wonderful family. He was a single dad. I was a single mom. We got together making it work. We had like our super socially conscious little army that we grew up. His family's from Guatemala. And so they had their own, very different from my upbringing. And so me and him growing up together, he had an experience where his father wasn't there, and how it impacted his life. And so I think for whatever reason, we work at it. And so I think that I'm preparing my children in that, don't put up with anybody that disrespects you, but definitely people are, it's a learning process, and relationships aren't easy. But it's worth it. It's worth it if you both put energy into it. For my kids, I think, I know what I've passed on. We were having this conversation with my husband is, like I said, my dad's self-made, and but you can make money in alternative ways. You don't have to go to school to do, what everybody says you have to do. You can be a business owner and successful, and Latinas statistically are a lot more higher than a lot of people as far as success in making businesses work. And I think it's just the way that we're brought up. We're hard workers, and we put all of our energy, whatever magic we have to do to make it work, and we always make it work. And so, like I said, being self-sufficient and pushing, I have started my own brand, my own company, going on 10 years. I've gotten to travel all over the United States. I've gotten to be a part of amazing history books, projects, conferences. I love to be a groundbreaker, and people see me and they think, esta, you know what I mean? I've had people come up and say, I can apply for a job. All I need is a GED. And I'm like, dude, I'll run circles around your GED. You don't even know me. And my children see that. And so, passing that on, that you could do anything. You could be anybody you want. Yes, artists can make money. I would just go for art. And people are like, what are you gonna do with that? My brother's like, what are you gonna do with that? He's an engineer, but I make it work, what I mean? And so as long as you're happy and you're not hurting anybody or yourself, that's what I've passed on. And that has rooted, that has roots from my parents.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And so for our next question, what, and this is, anyone can really respond to this one, what connections have you noticed from all the fellow participants? Like either confirmed your personal belief, or something that's like, oh, I never thought of that. Maybe that's I can extend on that.
There's at least something that's connecting each one of us is this very unique journey of self-awareness and or like how we are expressing ourselves in certain spaces, and how that kind of mindset is either how we're influencing our children to do the same, because I feel like everybody who has children in the conversation has shared that, and even those who have not have experienced that at least. So is that interconnection of how we are all trying to figure out who we are, in a sense.
Thank you. And so for our next question, what actually, before we do the advice, what messages do you have for like future Latinas, like navigating this space and navigating the world society? If you can ask Kim, Madeline, for that.
My future advice for Latinas is honestly give them hell, because being Latino, being from Indigenous background, you know, our ancestors were very powerful people. We have, you know, amazing, like Madeline said, energy, not just from like this lifetime, from several passed down. I think embracing it, honestly, and just doing what you got to do for yourself and finding your voice, because, you know, my voice is my voice and yours doesn't have to sound like my voice, you know, just truly like loving yourself and being able to live comfortably in your own skin, you know. I think for a long time I was afraid to speak up. I was afraid to speak up about my experiences and what I went through. But anyone I can say, some advice I can give is, you know, speak up. The only thing you can do, or the only thing that could go wrong is, well, I mean, multiple things could go wrong, but, you know, just speak up, speak your truth, do what you have to do to make yourself be better, and take every opportunity you get. Doesn't matter, you know, at the end of the day, it'll all pay off. And just know you're not just making your direct family proud, but, you know, there's a very powerful saying that I think is very true. Like, be your ancestors' wildest dreams, because back then, you know, as women, as people of color, we weren't allowed to do many things. And I think now that's changed. And even now with the government we have, I think they're now trying to put in new like obstacles for us. But regardless, we have to come up on top. You know, we did it once, we're going to sneak our way through again, because that's just who we are as Latinos.
Thank you. Madeline and Dina, and just for Dina, what messages would you give out to future Latinas, Chicanas, and such?
Hermanitas, you are beautiful. You could do anything you want. Learn your history, and you will see that there has been so many mujeres chingonas before you, and there will continue to be. We have always been here. We've always existed. We can do anything, your wildest dreams. You can do it. You can achieve anything. Don't let anybody tell you that you're second class. Don't believe that you're less than. Especially mujeres. Don't. You know. No, I'm not saying, you know, go out there and fight everybody, but love yourself enough to know where you belong, and you belong on top. You're an amazing person. Everything that has blended you together has made you so strong. Don't believe that you were sprouted from whatever boat or whatever they want to make you believe. Be strong, continue to be strong, and love yourself. And then you love yourself. A strong, loved Latina, Chicana, mujer can just change a whole world. We're the ones that run the families. We're the ones that nurture. And you can do a hell of a job when you don't feel restricted. You're not depressed. And when you're challenging yourself, and also just challenge yourself. Read.
Thank you. Yes. And Dina?
I'm sorry. I love everything Madeline said. You know, just, yeah, you know, Madeline, I mean, I know Madeline, and she's an amazing woman. And yeah, so, just be strong to the Latinas, be beautiful, you are beautiful. I think that I started gaining strength when I was really became more culturally aware, and I started connecting with strong Latinas, and I was like, oh shit, and I started realizing that there are a lot of us that are doing a lot of shit. I mean, I didn't realize that we were doing so much. I from the streets, and that's all I saw was just us, being on the streets and stuff. So yeah, educate yourself. You're beautiful, you're strong, and raise strong, women to follow your steps. Yeah.
Thank you. And so for the last part of this, it's called like the últimas palabras. So we're just saying what your final message, and it's to the question, what advice would you like to share to future parents? And if you like to go free.
If I can give some advice for the fathers raising young women out there, is don't think you have to step in front of them all the time. They're stronger than you know. And if you think you're strong, then teach them and they'll be stronger.
I'm thinking just love, for parents, like just, be really loving. My father was like a machista, so he didn't really know how to, hug and share affection, give affection. And then the man I was married to for 25 years, he was pretty much the same way. And so, love, hug and love your children all the time and tell them how beautiful they are, how smart they are, because you put that in their head, they're going to believe it. And it's true. We all have beautiful, smart, capable children, and you got to keep that in their head. And, since they're small, and my grandchildren, they're little, and I'm like, what are you? I'm kind, I'm beautiful, and and I'm smart. Those are the three things every fucking morning. And before you go to bed, it's the same shit, And so, yeah, just, keep feeding positivity into them.
Treat them better than, you've ever been treated. Dude, I have this saying that if you don't do right by your children, which is God's gift, God gave you like this precious child. And if you can't do right by, your children, nada te va a ver bien. Because like, if God is giving you, the creator, whatever higher power that you have has given you like this gift, your life isn't going to get together if you don't have it together for your kids. Your kids are your seeds. Your kids are what, you're leaving behind with the next generation. So always, like Dina said, give them love, like just love your children, embrace them, support them, be their rock. Be somebody they can, that they can depend on. Come to you about anything.
Like I said, as a child, because I'm not a parent yet, but I do hope to be one day. Just like really listen to your kids and don't doubt what they say. Your kids. Who you raise. What kind of person they are. And just give them endless love and be there for them as much as you can, because like even just the presence of you being there, I think is a lot. Because even though my dad was a machista and he didn't have a father, so he really didn't know how to be a father. But what I think helped a lot on my end, well, on his end for showing up, but on my end was that no matter what, like he always showed up. He always was there. He was always, when the big moments when it counted, he was always there. Even when even my high school graduation, we weren't speaking. So even though that we weren't speaking, he was still there. He saw me walk the stage. And even though we weren't really together, he was with my family. It was nice because it's a nice memory to like even look back and like talk about, saying like he did see me, even though we weren't speaking. So like no matter what, like I'm a strong, hard-headed girl. So I can only imagine if you have a daughter like me, you're in for it.
With that said, that is all the time that we have. Thank you for everyone for joining us. For everyone at home, make sure you like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also comment below, how is your experience growing up as Latina and or raising Latinas? Lastly, follow us on all our social media outlets at Latin Entertainment _presents. That is Latin Entertainment _presents. Also, you can listen to us on our various podcast platforms from Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Lastly, our next episode, in conjunction with this It All Starts at Home season, is going to be on co-parenting. Stay tuned for that next episode. Thank you all for your time, and see you on the next episode as Latin Entertainment presents Conversamos.
Yeah, yo, is it that wrong? I'm making a song, I'm taking it back for the platform that I formed. You should chop it and transform. I run the reservoir, the predator, like a hungry carnivore. When I'm breaking through these heavy doors, this is Desert Storm. A metaphor to show I'm equipped and informed. I'm striking with the mega force, I'm lukewarm. Your crew